We are 55 piece on. Yes. On
So it's my gavel tonight. Oh, way down there. The mayor got it.
The mayor is on.
All right, it's 6:30 and the Hainsport Township Joint Land Use Meeting for March 5, 2025 is called to order. I'm Tom McKay. We'll have a flag salute, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. For anybody who's in the audience tonight, I'm going to go a little bit out of order just for courtesy. The JDEB Marne Highway LLC matter will not be held tonight because of technical reasons. We'll get to this on the regular agenda because there needs to be a motion to adjourn, but the Patel matter, it's a pool, a bulk variance issue, will not be held tonight at the applicant's request for adjournment. All right. So returning to the agenda, Paula, would you read the sunshine law?
Notice of this meeting was published in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
All right. And we have our standard no new business after 10:30 p.m. rule. We will not start a new matter after 10:30. We'll finish matters after 10:30 that have started before that, but nothing new after 10:30. Next, we have the swearing in of a new member, not really new, but it's a reappointment. Mr. Mackay, you were appointed by resolution 2025-6-1 as a Class 4 alternative number 3 for a 2-year term to December 31, 2026. So please be sworn in by the clerk. Solicitor.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to both the governments established in the United States and in this state, under the authority of the people, that you will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of office of Hainsport Joint Land Use Board member, according to the best of your abilities, and will be done.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome aboard again. All right, we have case A 23-06A, JDEB Marne Highway LLC, as I said before, will not be heard tonight because of technical matters. Is there anything else, Bob, that we might put on and with regard to that for the adjournment?
I recommend continuing to this meeting with specific property notice.
All right. So can I have a motion to that effect? So moved. Okay. We'll do roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Twardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Cosko?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. All right, the next matter will require a similar type motion. Case, item B on today's agenda, case 24-22, Yogesh Patel. It's a bulk variance for a pool by email dated today. Mr. Patel requested that the matter be adjourned until the April 2nd, 2025 meeting. And Mr. Kingsbury, I don't think that he needs to renotice for that.
Now, we need a motion to continue at April 2, notice not required.
Okay, can I have a motion in that regard? So moved. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mrs. Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Cosko?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. McKay, can we back up for 1 second, please? Can we go to roll call?
Oh, did I miss roll call? I'm so sorry. Yes, we can go to roll call.
Mrs. Torti?
Here.
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Ludden?
Here.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes, here.
Mr. Jacochi? Absent. Mr. Novarita?
Here.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Here.
Mr. Holden?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. McKay?
Here.
Mr. McKay?
Here. All right, C matter on the case on the list tonight on the agenda, case 25-01 Frank Palante LLC. This is a use variance for single-family homes. Jonas Singer?
Good evening.
Good evening, nice to see you again. Please proceed.
Mr. McKay, I believe,
Yeah,
Mr. Forty and I
it's-
have to be
Yep.
accused.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Jonas Singer, Wells and Singer, appearing on behalf of the applicant F. Palente LLC. First, I thank you all for coming out tonight. I wasn't sure if we were going to all make it out here with the rains, but I do appreciate your appearance. This is an application similar to what was previously presented, but a lot different. We have come before you this evening requesting a use variance to allow for 4 single-family homes to be constructed on the lots that are part of this application. As you may recall, one of the lots that was previously the subject was a group veterans home that we proposed, and because of its location, I believe the board felt that it was not suitable for a veterans home to be constructed on a lot that was proposed. So Mr. Palente, who remains under contract to purchase this property, has redesigned his application. The lot that was previously the subject of the veterans home would now be a single-family home, and he is proposing a private drive to allow for access to 3 additional lots that are shown on a concept plan that has been prepared by our engineer. We understand that this evening is strictly for the use variance to permit construction of single-family homes within the PO zone. We understand that upon approval, we would come back for subdivision and site plan and deal with the engineering issues raised, well, some of the engineering, some of the planning issues raised by your planner. I do have 3 witnesses this evening, Mr. Palente, Mr. Romero, our engineer, and James Miller, our planner. I assume, Mr. Kingsbury, you'd like to have those sworn at once?
Yeah. You're welcome. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight, the truth will give nothing but truth, nothing but
Mr. Singer, before you proceed, I have a question. I want you to answer what, in the process of your other comments. Your application says on page 3, I believe it's page 3, that this is going to be a dedicated street. Am I correct?
That was the original concept, that the street would be dedicated to the township. But since then, after consulting with your planner and our engineer, it was suggested that we create a private road owned by the owners of those 3 lots. And we would form a homeowners association that would maintain the road, the snow, as well as the retention basins that are necessary for the project. We've shown 2 on the plan, 2 detention basins on the plan, but our engineer believes that he may be able to avoid one of them, but it's really subject to site plan review and engineering the site.
All right, so I just want to clear up that what I saw is an inconsistency between your app and
The original plan that was submitted, the original concept plan that was submitted did contemplate a road dedicated to the township. It's now a private road that would be owned by the association. The three properties that would benefit from that, from those improvements.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, no,
Go ahead.
No problem. Mr. Plante? Okay, you're sworn.
Yes,
Would you state your name for the record?
Frank Valente.
Plante, what do you do for a living?
I'm a builder slash flipper. I guess flipper's the easiest way to explain that.
But for this application, it's your intention to build these homes for sale to third parties, correct?
Yes,
And you are under contract to purchase this property?
I am.
And am I accurate in reciting that the application has been amended a bit to provide for a private road to support the 3 lots that are being subdivided?
Yes,
And the 1 lot is a standalone lot, which was the proposed site for the Veterans Home, is
right.
that correct?
Yes,
You understand that the application this evening is to request a use variance to allow the residential construction within the PO zone?
yes, I understand it's just the use variance, not a approval for the plan.
And that should this board agree and approve the use variance, you're prepared to submit a site plan as well as a subdivision plan for this site?
Yes,
How long have you been building homes?
building about 7 years, in the business almost 20 years now.
And
Just really,
have you had experience within Hainesport with
yes,
building homes?
yeah, I've done a few in Hainesport.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any other questions of this witness. If any members of the board? Thank you. Mr. Romero, why don't you stand where you are? Hopefully, will this pick him up? Or this,
He's gonna need to use.
There's a microphone right here. There's a microphone.
no,
My name is Sam Renero. I'm the civil engineer for site with SR3 Engineers. I'm the supervising engineer. I'm licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and I also have my professional planner's license in New Jersey. I've testified before about 50 boards in New Jersey, including this board.
He'll be accepted, Mr.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Romero, now, would you briefly describe what is being proposed this evening?
I'll pull out a aerial just to, in case anyone's not familiar with the site, I'll very briefly cover the location of the site.
Why don't we mark that as A1?
I've marked it as applicant's Exhibit A1. Property's bounded by Route 38. It's at the intersection of Route 38 and Laurel Ridge Road. To the east is the paper street of Sandra Lane. It's wooded right now. To the west is a doctor's office, and to the south is the R1 zone with the Laurel Ridge development. The proposed application before you this evening is for 4 single-family homes. 3 of them would be part of a subdivision on the east side of Laurel Ridge Road, and on the west side would be a standalone, single-family lot that would not change its property lines. That's known as Lot 7, Block 163, Lot .03, Lot 7. The property would be served by a shared driveway shown off of Laurel Ridge Road. So 3 of the lots would gain access via the shared driveway. After discussions with township professionals, we have shown the plan to have a curve shape to help break up the view from Laurel Ridge Road and help also keep some more wooded areas along Route 38. The property, although we would not have a site plan design, a detailed site plan design, we will, should this board act favorably on the application, we'll prepare a detailed stormwater design, utility design, and grading plans. But this plan is our best approximation of the location of stormwater basins and some of the other engineering as far as clearing for the trees. We are open to some suggestions on how these these homes will be located. I can tell you that from a stormwater standpoint, as an engineer, I want to make sure that for this part of the approval process, I'm showing something conservatively large. When we get to pencil to paper on the stormwater design, my hope is that we can either eliminate one of the two basins or at a minimum make them smaller. New Jersey does have new stormwater regulations coming out this spring, so we have to kind of factor that in. They never get smaller with these new regulations, unfortunately. The basins don't get smaller, so we just have to leave ourselves some room, and that's what I've tried to do.
All right, so just a question. So you've got a proposal to make the new subdivision 6 lots?
So the subdivision, it would be a 4-lot subdivision with 3 homes. On the west side, that home would remain. So there's 4 total single-family homes. We're showing 5 lots on the east side because 1 lot would be the basins and the shared driveway. So that would be a utility lot with no homes.
All right. And which basin, if you know, might you eliminate?
We will, again, we will try to eliminate the basin to the south closest to the neighbor.
And that, if
At
you
a minimum,
didn't
make
use
it
that,
smaller.
if you didn't use that for a basin, would that land just become part of the next lot over? Lot number, house 1?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, continue, please.
No, it's good questions. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't have anything further, can we review the planner's letter? Well, I'm sorry, you want to, that's the A2?
So the applicant's exhibit A2 is simply the site plan you had before you this evening,
Well, not site plan, but a,
the zoning plan. It's titled zoning plan. Thank you.
with respect to the Taylor Design Group's letter of February 27, 2025, can we just go through that a bit and try to respond to some of the questions so we can provide as much information to the board as we can?
If Mr. Chairman wants, yes, happy to, yes.
Okay, so as far as, and I'm referring to second page, B1, I'm sorry, third page, B1. The prior pages deal with planning, and I have Mr. Miller here this evening to testify with respect to planning. So with respect to the third page, general comments, again, how would the private driveway and the basins be maintained? Who would own them?
The homeowners association for the 3 lots would maintain the basin.
And so they would create a small association amongst themselves to plow and maintain the basins as required.
Plow, maintain the basins, yes, those would be the main responsibilities.
Okay.
Can I ask a couple of questions, as long as we're focusing on the road? To what design standards will the road be constructed?
The road will meet the New Jersey residential site improvement standards. And, I guess we're going to share a driveway. There is kind of a rural driveway section of the RSIS that we will meet.
And it appears on your diagram, just from, just measuring it out, that this road will be more like a rural driveway than a dedicated road.
Correct. And when we're in discussions amongst our team and with the municipal professionals, having a municipal road that Hainesport would have to maintain and snowplow for just 3 lots seemed like a little excessive. We thought that the better route would be a shared driveway.
Does the RSS standard require curbing on this road?
No,
What about sidewalks?
I don't believe so.
And are you proposing sidewalks or not?
We're not proposing sidewalks for this zoning plan.
What are you going to do with respect to mail delivery, garbage pickup, recycling pickup, since this is not going to be a dedicated street?
So that may be detailed. I can give you some of the engineering part of it. The road would be designed to handle fire trucks, to handle garbage trucks who would be using the site. As far as the details of that, I would have to defer to others on that.
All right. Mr. Singer, can we address, since everybody's sworn in, can we address that issue now, so we don't forget about it going down the...
Mr. Chairman, if I can, just in terms of the mail, U.S. Postal Service has issued directives. They will not do door-to-door for new developments. They are requiring gang cluster box units. So I would anticipate that there will either be one cluster box out on Laurel Ridge Road, or perhaps 3 individual mailboxes right next to each other. That really is completely the jurisdiction of the local postmaster, and they determine where they go on any residential project. Because this lot, and we talked a little bit about this during some of our technical reviews, the intent here is that this will be a shared driveway, and that trash, this is common in more rural, large lot areas that you see in Medford, Morristown, Chemung, Tabernacle, where 2 lots, sometimes 3 lots or more, will share a single drive. The trash is brought out to the public right-of-way, and the trash trucks would pick it up there, and I think that may be something appropriate that the board may want to consider and reflect that as a reminder of the potential condition on the application.
Or the alternative, I assume the homeowners could retain their own private hauler for
Absolutely.
pickup. They don't-
Yeah, the association, I'm sure, could, and have, it's a
Correct.
long way to haul a couple of recycle bins
Right.
Thursdays to the other street.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, continue,
Okay.
please.
You have item 3, well, okay, so the zoning chart would be revised to set forth the R1 standards, because you've designed this in accordance with the R1 standards, correct?
Yes.
And why did you do that?
We decide, the PO standards aren't quite applicable to a residential development, so our choice was to meet the standards of R1 because that's the adjacent zone and that's the neighborhood it's located.
And so the bridge development behind it, so to speak, to the south is in the R1 zone?
Yes.
And what would be the approximate sizes of these lots as proposed?
The minimum lot size is 20,000. These lots would probably be about 30,000 or more, especially if some of the lots are going to be including some more of the wooded areas. But none of them are less than 30,000 square feet.
Except for the one that's to the east, or to the west, correct?
I apologize, yes, for the subdivision. The lot to the left is almost exactly 20,000 square feet, maybe slightly less.
So you need a variance for that, too.
Yes.
Yes, it's like 19,000 and change, 20,000 is
Square
required.
feet short, yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. Just trying to keep track of what you need.
And then you'll show in number 3, you're showing the revisions to the front yard setbacks from Route 38. correct?
We'll comply, no problem.
Number 4, do you have proposed architectural plans that we can show to the board?
These are conceptual plans. I'm not an architect, but we received these from Mr. Palante's architect.
This is some of the prior homes that he has built,
Yes.
so, and they would fit within the, obviously, the bulk standards of the lot, correct?
Yes, and my understanding is they're similar size to the other houses in the neighborhood.
Okay. And do you know the approximate sizes of these homes?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I can ask Mr. Plante. Mr. Plante? Gotta get on the record. Approximately, what size homes are you proposing?
These homes are approximately 2,500 to 3,000 square feet.
All right, Mr. Palani, while you're up, on, I don't know what we're calling it, the standalone lot, what, are we designating that as a particular lot number 4? Or
We've been calling it Lot 7 because that's the existing lot number.
It's lot 7, but it's house 4 on the diagram.
It's also a lot 7 on the east side.
Existing, yes. We're calling them 1, 2, 3 on our side, but then on the,
All right, well, I'm going to call it the lot for house 4.
Yep, okay.
Because that's what it's labeled as on your plan. I guess the question is to address in advance potential variances that you would need for setbacks, side, front lot, front yard, side lot. Are you going to be, sort of designing the house within that box?
Yes, that would be the plan, is not requiring any additional variances because of setbacks. In brief conversations with Sam and my architect, we have a house that would fit on that lot within the setbacks required for the R1 zone.
And that's the house you would offer on that lot?
Yes. Yeah, it wouldn't be any smaller than the other ones. It would be very similar to the other ones on the other side. So, in look, and it's not like it would be a small rancher, and then on the other side would be, 2,500 square foot houses. It would be very similar to the other ones.
Right, I understand. Related is the issue on this lot for House 4, same lot. Looking out, pool, owner buys the lot from you, then comes back, wants to put a pool in. Difficult to squeeze a pool into this lot.
Well, it's recommended by your planner that we consider the criteria for the R1 zone so that purchasers know what they're buying and what the criteria is going forward if they need to do any improvements that may not require variances. I don't know whether there's a pool, there's room for a pool on that lot or not.
Or anything else for that matter. The point being that this particular lot of the 4 building lots is particularly small and constrained by, so that almost any variation from outside of the box, whether it be a porch, a pool,
Well, porch, I think-
addition, is going to have to come back for a variance. And I guess the question is, and I'll ask the planner maybe to jump in on this, do we talk about that now as a condition, or do we just ignore it and a year from now or 2 years from now, we deal with the variance?
I think that...
And if I can, since we're just here for use variance tonight, once the applicant, assuming it moves forward for full subdivision approval, which would be required, at that time, they will probably have a better chance to evaluate what the exact architecture is, what that configuration is. It may be that they don't have a side entry garage and they have a front entry garage, and that leaves a little bit more on that side. If for some reason, at that time, the applicant wants to move the home forward 2 feet, the board can, as part of that subdivision, consider any variance request.
Deal with the variance at that point to adjust the house.
As necessary.
On the site plan application.
You raise a good point that any really private rear yard space given that side garage entry would be limited. So they may want to give that some consideration of whether that home can get moved toward Route 38 a little bit so there's a little more functional backyard that they can adjust prior to the subdivision.
Well, it's good that we're talking about these issues now.
Yeah, and I think that standalone lot would probably be the only one that we would have that issue with, because the other lots are pretty big.
I would agree with you, yes. That's why I raised this lot issue. I'm sorry, please continue, Mr. Singh.
Thank you. Sam, with respect to paragraph 5, with existing wetlands, do you have an opinion as to whether there exists wetlands on the site?
Yes, in our site inspection for the site, we did not notice a pretty detailed inspection. We didn't notice any evidence of any wetlands on the site.
But you will have a letter from an environmentalist to confirm that?
So our thought is to provide a wetland scientist opinion on the property and provide that letter. We usually use a gentleman named Joe Arsenal, who's an expert in South Jersey.
Okay. With respect to the vacation of Sandra Lane, that would have to come from council, correct?
Yes, and that's not part of this application, but we were requested to show what that could look like should it be vacated on this plan, but that's not part of this application.
Now, should it not be vacated, does it affect the size of the proposed lots that are being proposed?
it would not adversely impact them, it would make the lots larger.
So without vacating that street and adding the land, half the land to this side, it would just make lots, but the lots already conform or exceed the conformity of the R1 zone, correct?
Yes, correct.
As far as existing utilities, can you advise the board of what utilities presently support this property?
Yeah, the application will include public water, public sewer, gas, and electric, and that will be shown on our detailed site plan should the board act favorably for this use variance.
Where is the main at this point for sewer? Is it
In Laurel Ridge Road.
in Laurel Ridge Road?
Yes, for both water and sewer.
And on the utilities, the electric cable part of it, are they going to be all underground?
Yes.
Okay.
The driveways would require an easement onto the road owned by the association, correct?
Yes.
There'll be cross easements between the lots.
Yes.
Sidewalks, that will await site plan at that point? As
Yes.
to whether,
Existing sidewalk on Laurel Ridge Road, and yes.
but there is an existing sidewalk on Laurel Ridge.
Existing sidewalk on Laurel Ridge Road, yes. I saw a tree was down today, right there, so hopefully that sidewalk is okay.
Okay.
Is there sidewalk on both sides, Stan?
Yes, on Laurel Ridge Road, yes.
And the sidewalk goes out to 38?
Yes.
Does it?
Number 9, your proposed driveway will comply with RSIS standards?
Yes, and will be adequate for emergency vehicle. During site plan approval, we will show a emergency vehicle turning simulation.
And the lots are large enough to accommodate the on-site parking for the number of bedrooms that are being proposed, correct?
Yes, yes.
Number 10. Can you-
Yeah, I think we can work with Mr. Taylor about maybe adjusting a little bit of the geometry of the shared driveway. That should be no problem.
Okay. Number 11, the fence encroachment south on proposed, there exists an existing encroachment
Yes.
onto this
On
property?
The homeowner on Sandra Lane, adjacent to the property, there is a fence that encroaches 4 feet onto what we're calling Lot 2. We would probably just have to provide an easement or something. Jonas can probably help with that, but there is an encroachment of an existing fence.
So we either allow it by an easement or we ask that they remove it or relocate it?
Yeah,
Okay. So it's not encroaching from this property to the neighbor, it's the neighbor's fence encroaching onto this property?
yes.
Okay. As far as buffers, paragraph 12, what is being proposed and what can we do to increase buffers along 38?
Yes, we've done our best to show as much buffering around the development as we can on all sides. Along Route 38, there's a significant area where we're saving trees, and along the south property line, we're saving a significant amount of trees. As I mentioned, Sandra Lane is a wooded area, and we're saving additional wooded area adjacent to Sandra Lane. In addition, the board professionals have asked that if we can, move the basins back away from Laurel Ridge Road to provide a little wooded area adjacent to the road. Again, I can try to accommodate that. I don't see that being a problem.
And what about the basin to the south? What do you think you could do with that?
So this is, again, as I mentioned earlier, I try to be conservative on a concept plan when I do not have detailed engineering design. When we put pencil to paper, we will try to eliminate that basin, and at a minimum, we make that basin smaller.
Realizing the basins haven't been designed, and you might wind up with one basin, not two. What are we looking at in terms of basin depth and proposal to fence or not? I know this is for the future, but I'd like to hear you on that right now.
We would show a fence, and as far as the depth, we don't know yet.
Are fences mandated for basins?
No, but usually a fence is a good idea. I think Mr. Palante would want one.
Will these be basins or swales?
Basins.
Basins. And is there stormwater for lot 4?
That's a standalone lot that probably will most likely be part of the building permit and is not included in the basins for the 3-lot subdivision.
Will that be part of the HOA?
No. Well, the current plan is that it would not be.
Is the calculation of cost for maintenance of the basins and I assume street as well, has that been calculated to see if that's potentially unduly burdensome on the 3 lots? In other words, it's a 3-lot group that's going to pay for all the common costs. That's not a lot of houses to spread it around, so
We
there have been estimates.
we haven't done until it's designed, we won't be able to determine a cost basis and a maintenance schedule, but it will definitely be fully disclosed to the homeowners as required by, in the contract. So they will have a budget. There will be a line item for repairs as well as replacements. So yeah, there will be full disclosure to the.
No, I know there would be. I'm just thinking of it in terms of down the future. This homeowners association fee is like a surcharge on top of whatever the real estate taxes are, really.
True, and that you do get the benefits of a private drive versus a public street, so.
True. But, we wouldn't want a situation where the costs of this become so burdensome that it's problematic to get people to pay going down the
Right,
future.
I understand.
And just keep that in mind, I would hope.
Understood.
Paragraph 13, dealing with, again, vegetation. There's a request of a conservation easement along 38. The applicant agree to that?
Yes.
So to maintain the existing tree line and whatever other vegetation is
I
required?
think 25-foot wide area that would be designated as a conservation area is fine, and I think also in Mr. Taylor's letter, he asked that we widen the preserved area on the east side near Lot 3, referring to Exhibit A2 on the east side of the project, make that a little larger, and we can accommodate that.
And maintenance of that would be also subject to the homeowners association?
Yes, but
Well-
there's very, very little maintenance, but yes. The idea would be to keep it as natural as possible.
Sure, but that means, picking up discarded trash in there and there's going to be some potential maintenance. And that's for the homeowners association again.
Yes.
It could either be
Unless the
the,
town would like to take it over, that would be good for us.
it's either the association or the individual homeowner, as far as the conservation, the area
I
within
don't
the
know
conservation.
how that would work. If it's a conservation easement, it suggests that the association is responsible for it, even though it may be on the individual lot or lots.
We've seen it done both ways. If it's created out as part, if that 20 feet becomes part of the larger common open space lot, then it is definitely the obligation of the HOA to maintain that. We've seen a lot of instances where it just becomes a conservation easement to the benefit of the township and the HOA. So the homeowner still has the obligation to maintain that area, but there's a conservation easement, so it shows up in their deed that they can't clear cut all those mature trees all the way to 38. And that if for some reason they do clear cut or they build a shed or a garage in that area, their neighbors can enforce the terms of that easement or the township can, but they still would have the obligation to maintain the trash,
Right.
And fallen trees?
fallen trees, etc.
Paragraph 14, again, dealing with buffers and woodland along the southerly boundary line. Indicate what that will be.
Yeah, so along the southern property line, we are also showing a 25-foot area of preserved existing trees, and we would be willing to make that a conservation easement as well.
Okay. And then there's a recommendation, paragraph 15, that the standards, bulk standards going forward be within, per the R1 zone.
That's agreeable.
And 16, are these setbacks designed from the edge of the pavement presently?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the road width?
18 feet.
18 feet versus the standard, if we were using a standard road width, we'd be at 50 feet?
No. 50 feet would be the right-of-way, that's correct, you're correct about that.
40
But
feet.
the actual cartway width would be between 22 and 28 feet. 28 feet would be if you have parking on one side, 22 would be with no parking.
Okay.
Okay, those are comments of your planner. Obviously, your engineer will comment once we submit for subdivision and site plan, and we're prepared to respond to that at that time. Mr. Romero, is there anything else that you wish to add that I haven't asked you?
No, we'll look forward to hopefully proceeding.
Members of the board or professionals have any questions?
So in terms of the trash, it's also recycling, Burlington County Recycling as well, in addition to the trash hauling. Will that be in the HOA document that if they want to utilize the municipally provided and county provided services, that they would have to bring that out to Laurel Ridge?
Yes, and that can be a condition.
It would be in the HOA document? Okay.
You know, if you did that, looking to the site plan that you might submit, you almost have to have a dedicated place at the end of the street for that stuff, otherwise it gets haphazardly
Yeah, I would
placed
think.
at there. And I drive through Medford and I see these little lanes and there's 25 blue recycle containers haphazardly dumped at the end of the street. And that'd certainly be something you wouldn't want to have here, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, we would,
In the mailboxes too, we'll show that.
sure, it's part of the
Yeah.
That's the HOA thing. Is that, like, you guys' responsibilities, like, you'll put that all together, and then that'll be like an ironclad thing, so where 20 years from now, these three people that live here couldn't come together and say, hey, we can save money, let's do away with this, I'll plow it this year, you plow it next year, kind of thing. Like, where does that stand?
The way it works is, yeah, there will be a recorded document in the county clerk's office. Each homeowner would be a member of the association. They would have its own bylaws and its own budget. And the rules and regulations are set forth in that document. So that document remains and it runs with the land, so it's always going to be in effect and be valid, and be subject to, and the homeowners would know it because it's of record, and they're charged with that knowledge. So yes, it wouldn't be, it would remain as an association.
They do have flexibility if they wanted to rotate who plow each
Yeah.
year among them, they can, or they can jointly contract out. The most critical thing here is they have to do inspections and maintenance of the basin, and that's required by DEP in our ordinance, and that will all end up becoming a significant portion, and that really can't change. Those are state and local ordinance requirements for that.
Yeah, I think there's an annual questionnaire that comes out each year. So, yeah, they have to maintain that.
I tell you, the more I sit and think about it, I do have a concern about the financial burden on a three-house group to support all this cost, the road maintenance,
Not the cost of the road, but obviously the
Base.
developer is going to build it and make all the improvements, but the maintenance of the road, its useful life, it's all computed as to what the annual maintenance is, and then, budgeting for replacement as well. But it's not unusual to have a small association for, 2 or 3 lots.
Well, it may not be unusual if you look at it from a wide lens, but it's unusual for Hainsport. I don't know of any other association in Hainsport that is that small. It just,
I'm not sure there's many other options, and I think if these were just, if this was just an estate home, they would have to maintain their driveway anyway, and the only additional maintenance responsibility is really the basics. And if it was a very, very large home that was larger than a certain, let's say it was just one very large home, they would also have a basin that they would also have to maintain. So I don't think it's much different than just a normal situation, and it's also a smaller development than you would see, say, a 40 development. There's much less to maintain here, and hopefully I can get these basins to a small, reasonable level that'll be maintenance-free. I think during site plan, to help you, maybe we can provide that cost estimate that you're asking for and show you the numbers. Would that help?
well, I think, I raise it as an issue more for you,
Yeah.
because obviously the town doesn't want a situation where down the road, the costs of maintenance on this HOA become burdensome to the point that you've got defaults by the homeowners. And then all of that eventually comes back to the town, as you can imagine.
Understood.
I have one question. Do we have to consider all of the lots in this use variance together, or this one that's off to the side that's closest to, like, the chiropractor? Is it possible, but this is one big package of use variance for this whole entire property? Is that?
Yeah, the request is, in order to be able to build in this zone, we need a use variance for each of the 4 lots that are being proposed.
So we
The only
really,
issue before you tonight is the use variance.
right, and it's use variance for the entire 7 lots that
A lot of
are,
what we're talking about will come when they come back for subdivision approval.
so if someone didn't think that this one particular lot was appropriate for housing, it would be a no for the entire thing, is what we're saying. And then I just want to raise one concern as for environmental commission representative, that in general, these houses are very close to what is becoming a very busy road with lots of truck traffic as warehouses are built all the way down 38, and there's a lot of concern as far as how close it is safe to live next to diesel fumes and other things coming off of a road. I personally would have some personal concern about living so close, and especially, I think it was raised with just deciduous trees blocking me and the sound of the trucks in the middle of the night and the noise. So that's, I'm raising that just as a concern, not necessarily a question, but the first design that came through, this at least pulls 2 of the houses back further, but I would still think that this, you know, it's not the 2-lane highway that, where there's other houses that are on there. And I think in other sections where we've had new development, there's a commercial zone sort of buffering the housing, which is sort of, you know, along 38, where at the edge of my development, they put in houses, but there's still a commercial zone that's in front of that, backing the houses off a little bit from the highway. But
One of the things that maybe I want to add to that point, if I may, count. When we looked at that, we talked about it internally in the office. Lot number 3, if you're in your rear yard, you're sort of close. If that was rotated clockwise, 15, 30 degrees, or even so that the back of that house is parallel with the Sandra Lane right of way. Yeah, basically just rotate that a little bit this way, we create some better privacy, maybe make the home more marketable, and probably get those common outside spaces some additional distance away from Route 38, might help with sound, might help with privacy, might make it a more desirable lot. The very simple shifting, rotating of that might be very nice to consider.
Okay.
Question in terms of, will there be a fire hydrant installed here?
Yes.
Will there have to be, okay, where would that go?
At the end of the lane.
Okay, now, would the cost,
Which end?
Laurel Ridge?
The end.
Okay.
Oh,
referring to Exhibit A2, the end of the shared driveway.
So will the cost of that to American Water be borne by the HOA?
It would be an easement that would be dedicated to American Water. We have not spoken to them in that much detail, but that would be the plan right now. We'll talk to them, and if they have a problem with that, we'll have to, if they have a problem with that, we'd have to have a meter at Laurel Ridge Road and then service to the back, and that's doable too. But right now, we would be requesting an easement and a hydrant at the end of the line. They would probably want that anyway as a blow-off.
Right. And the annual or monthly fee for that hydrant to American Water is going to be paid by who?
That would be owned by, each lot would have their own account and their own meter. And then the hydrant, we haven't spoken to New Jersey American about the maintenance of the hydrant yet.
But most likely it would be part of the association requirement.
In the same vein, streetlights. Yes, no? How do
We
you,
haven't provided a design yet for streetlights.
and then how do you handle HOA going to take care of maintenance and power costs?
We haven't designed we haven't contemplated streetlights yet. That's a site plan issue, we'll deal with that.
I understand it's site plan, but thinking down the road.
Most likely, if we could, we'd probably just prefer to have the lights off the homes, a pole light near the end of the driveway and lights on the house, typical lights at your entrance and
Yeah, I think
garage.
we're treating it like a shared driveway. I don't think we would not be showing initially light poles along that driveway.
Okay.
I do think we'd want to make sure at Laurel Ridge, if there's a gap, because we do have a couple houses, it may be appropriate for there to be one in the municipal right-of-way on Laurel Ridge, so we get that.
There is one there that looks like it was damaged today, but there is one there near our driveway. So,
Did you run into a pole today?
It wasn't me.
You're paying for that Public Works overtime too. No.
You know, there's two homes on, I'm trying to think, it's Craig Drive, and also on Sandra Lane, before you get to Easton Way. I imagine these people put these pole lights up, they're really decorative, and I don't know if that's something that, when you're building the home, that you put that in, it really looks nice. There's two homes that have them. It's on between, Sandra Lane and right on Easton Way. There's a big pole right by a garage that looks like they put it up themselves. And down, when you go to the end of Craig Drive, where the circa area is, they also put a light up there, big pole light. And it looks like the people did it themselves. And maybe you just add that when you're building, and that's something in the cost of the home. But if you could take a look at these two poles, I mean, they're really sharp.
We'll check it out.
Question here. Will there be a manufactured treatment device between the stormwater inlets and the ponds?
No. No, we would do all just regular, no manufactured treatment devices that would require maintenance. We would not have that. It would probably be an infiltration basin that wouldn't need that.
Okay. I believe the township has a code for removal of trees, and there's a lot of trees on that lot. Will you be seeking an exemption or variance for that?
There is a lot of trees, and we have not addressed that yet.
Could get real expensive.
Yeah. We will definitely be talking about during site plans. I did see that ordinance, and it looks like it's pretty tough.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Singer, do you have a planner to address
I do,
positive, negative criteria?
yes. Mr. Miller?
Good evening.
Mr. Miller, would you please state your name for the record
It's James Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.
and your profession?
I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
And would you briefly give your educational background and your work experience?
Yes, I'm also certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners as a certified planner. I have a master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers University, and I've been,
This way a little bit, the microphone is getting feedback.
Oh, okay.
Two microphones.
Okay.
That's good.
And I've been practicing for over 40 years, and I've been qualified as an expert witness in 260-plus municipalities in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, as well as this board.
And are you familiar with,
Mr. Miller is acceptable as a witness.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, are you familiar with this project?
Yes, I am.
And what have you done to prepare yourself for tonight's testimony?
I've examined the concept plan that was prepared by our engineer. I've reviewed the applicable sections of the township zoning ordinance. I've reviewed the 2022 master plan reexamination report, as well as some other of the master plan documents that are applicable to the project. I've reviewed Mr. Taylor's letter in detail, and I've been out to the site and the surrounding area, so I'd be familiar with the land use patterns that characterize the area.
So would you please provide your testimony as to supporting the use variance that's being applied this evening?
Yes. If I could use the lectern and
Absolutely.
straight, get off the feedback there. The board has already heard some extensive testimony about the site itself. The site is zoned PO, Professional Office District. That zone is relatively restrictive. It permits offices for doctors, dentists, attorneys, engineers, architects, planners, insurance agents, accountants, and similar office uses. They're all basically small-scale professional uses for the most part. And it also has conditional uses, allows antique shops, which there used to be a cluster of those along Route 38 at one time, banks, and daycare facilities, which are required under state statute. The surrounding uses and zoning include the Wilverton bus zone, bus facility, which is zoned HC Highway Commercial. You can see that, Melanie. You can see the bus parking on Exhibit A1, which is directly to the north across the street from the subject property. To the east is Sandra Lane, and that's a wooded area right now. It's undeveloped, and it is zoned R1. To the south is a residential single-family detached neighborhood, which is also zoned R1. And then to the west, there are a series of lots that front on Route 38, which are also zoned planned office. And then behind those lots, the zoning again is R1. So basically, more than 50% of the perimeter of this property is in the R1 district. And the balance is that little area that's zoned professional office across from the property that fronts on Laurel Ridge Road. The existing use is a vacant wooded lot. The proposed use are the 4 single-family detached dwellings. And the relief we're seeking this evening is actually twofold. We need relief from Section 35 of the Municipal Land Use Act that requires a lot to front on a public street. As you've noted from the testimony earlier, 3 of the 4 lots are going to front on a private street, and that requires relief from Section 35. And then we also need a D1 variance to allow the residential uses within the planned office district. I'm going to begin by addressing the requirements for the Section 35 variance first, and after I get done that testimony, I'll address the D1 relief as well. Under Section 40:55D, Sections 35 and 36, there are appeal criteria for relief from the requirement in the municipal land use law that any lot have access to a public street. And that relief is justified if you could demonstrate that there would be practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship, or where the circumstances of the case do not require the buildings or structure to be related to a street. And then in addition, we also have to show that there will be adequate access for fire and emergency equipment and general compliance with the township's circulation plan. In terms of the first set of criteria, we required to show that the plan will have adequate access, and The relief required here and the proposed plan would be the private drive that was described earlier, which would connect the 3 lots to Laurel Ridge Road. And I believe there are circumstances here that would justify the relief in terms of the fact that there will be adequate access to these lots despite the fact that they won't front on a public street. And first of all, it's because the lots will front on a private street, and that private street will have most of the attributes of a public right-of-way and a typical residential street. It'll be paved wide enough to support two-way traffic. It will intersect with Laurel Ridge Road, which will provide a linkage to Route 38 and the residential streets network to the south. And basically, it will enable this area to maintain the character it continues to have with primarily a residential character. The proposed drive will be adequate for emergency vehicle access, and I base that on a number of observations here. First of all, again, it'll have a width of 18 feet. That's the RSIS standard for rural land, and a street which would have daily traffic of less than 200 trips per day and no on-street parking. The RSIS multiplier for trips from a single-family detached residence is 10.1 trips. So if you multiply the 10.1 times the 3 proposed units, under RSIS, the projected trip generation for this property would be 30.3 trips. So that's well below the 200 trip threshold. And I think what that demonstrates is that we comply with the RSIS standards. The street will be adequate for both normal traffic and also to accommodate emergency vehicles because all those factors were considered when the RSIS standards were established and the standards for the 18-foot rural lane were incorporated into the RSIS standards. It will also be in general compliance with the township circulation plan. The access drive will again connect to Laurel Ridge Road, a street that runs between Route 38 and Craig Drive. That gives you full access to Route 38. It also gives you access to the south and areas to the south and west of the property. So it's fully connected and integrated into the township's street network. And it also won't result in an additional public street. So there's very little impact on the circulation plan, but to the extent there is any impact, it's compliant because you're not really extending any of the township street network. And this is just accommodating a very low-level development with a private street. But basically, it addresses and satisfies all the requirements for the relief that we're seeking. It will provide adequate access for the homes. It'll provide adequate access for emergency service vehicles, and it will not be detrimental or inconsistent with the township circulation plan. So basically, it satisfies all the requirements for the relief from Section 35. And with that, I'll move on to the proofs for the D variance. As the board knows, the D variance, we have to show that there were special reasons that will justify the relief that we're seeking, and that relief will advance purposes of the municipal land use law. And this evening, I would cite 3 purposes of the municipal land use law. Purpose A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner that will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Purpose G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses, open space, both public and private, according to their respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. And purpose I, to provide a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. As I mentioned earlier, D1 variance, we have to show that the property is particularly suited for the proposed use. We also have a situation here where we've been discussing the bulk requirements that we would anticipate adhering to this project as we go through the balance of the process. When you're involved with a D1 variance, the assumption is that the bulk stands that were designed for the uses which otherwise are permitted in the district may not be appropriate for the use that's being proposed. And in this case, what we're proposing is to apply the R1 standards for the bulk requirements that are applicable to this property. To the extent that there's C variance relief required to accomplish that, it can be subsumed within the D variance, so that the justifications for the D variance will also justify the incorporation of those R1 bulk requirements into the use variance approval, and by extension into the design and layout of the subdivision. So basically, all the questions that arose about the bulk standards are resolved by that case law, which allows you to incorporate and assume that relief into the use variance. And you also have a little bit additional flexibility. I know there was some discussion earlier about the bulk requirements for the lot on the west side of Laurel Ridge Road. And to the extent that the board might want to vary those standards a little bit there, you have the authority to do that as part of the use variance. So I wanted to throw that out there as well. So basically, all the relief can be justified by the criteria that are applicable to the D1 variance, and I believe there are a number of factors that make this property particularly suited for the uses proposed. First of all, as I cited earlier, I believe this is going to contribute to a desirable visual environment and good civic design and arrangement. Basically, what the applicant has done is design a fairly low-density residential subdivision for this particular area of the township. The lot sizes here are significantly larger than they would be in the surrounding community for the most part, which are, again, determined by the R1 district. And because it's really kind of a residential cluster, what that does is it enables you to preserve all that perimeter woods, all the woods that surround the perimeter boundaries of the property. And what that does is it creates an attractive streetscape along Route 38, and it also creates a rural feel along Laurel Ridge Road, which in many respects is going to be more aesthetically complementary to the residential areas to the south than if this property had been developed with some sort of office use that would otherwise have been permitted in the district, where you'd have parking lots, you'd have taller buildings potentially, and a more urban character. So this kind of a design is a good civic design alternative, because I think it's a better fit with some of the residential uses to the south and the surrounding character of the area. Secondly, the PO zone has limited options, and the proposed residential use provides a suitable alternative use for the tract. I've been involved in reviewing the Hainesport zoning ordinances for many, many years. And I know that the PO district was created actually back in 1987. And during that era, and I've done this for towns that I represented, you often created these professional districts in areas along highways where in earlier periods of development, the land use pattern was basically residential, rural residential. And what the professional office districts did is to create a kind of a transition zone. I think one of the board members referred to that a little earlier, where the homes that might have been there might be converted to a dental office or a medical office or an accounting office. And that worked very well back in the day when there was a market for those uses. The problem we faced since the turn of the century is that the market for those types of professional spaces is plummeted. There's just, the demand is not what it had been. And that's a function of a lot of things that have changed in society. For example, if you were a doctor or a lawyer back in 1987, you had a certain amount of back office requirements, and you could maintain a small practice, but you had to have a certain amount of space for your secretaries and your bookkeepers and your filing. But with the advent of computers, you no longer need the kind of back office space. So a lot of the smaller professional practices operate out of homes. And on the other side of the continuum, a lot of the medical and dental practices now require a lot more investment in equipment, supplies, and staff than they would have historically. You don't have a single practitioner, general practitioner type doctor, for example, in residential areas as you did many years ago. And so what's happened is a lot of the medical and dental practices have been incorporated into large corporate entities. A lot of them are now affiliated with hospitals. You'll see, the Virtua emergency care or urgent care facilities and those sorts of things. And the overall impact of that from a land use perspective is that you're not seeing the development of areas with professional office zoning any longer. And I think that this is an area where arguably I don't think you're going to see that type of development occurring in the future. And as a consequence, the zoning becomes difficult to implement because it's very constricted in terms of the uses it permits, and those uses aren't as viable economically as they have been when the zoning was created. And what this project does is it creates a very viable and contemporary alternative to the uses that would have been provided by the zone. Lastly, and I think most importantly, the location has attributes that make it particularly suited for the proposed use. These factors are unique to the site and its particular suitability. In other words, they're specific to this location, not the district as a whole. The tract is situated between Route 38 and a residential district that lies along the balance of its perimeter. As I pointed out earlier, almost the entire perimeter is in the R1 district except for the part that fronts on Route 38. The area is zoned R1, and it's a district where the permitted uses are primarily single-family detached dwellings on 20,000 or larger square foot lots. This development would be fully compatible with that established neighborhood and the residential development patterns that it represents. The existing lot on the west side of Laurel Ridge Road will have an area of 19,000, or does have an area of 19,809 square feet. That's the existing condition. And that condition is within 99% of the minimum lot area required for that R1 district. So basically, that lot is consistent with the R1 zoning. The lots to the east that are proposed on the east side of Laurel Ridge Road will represent the consolidation of the existing 7 lots that are present, and those lots will measure between 32,453 square feet and 50,112 square feet under the current plan. All those lot sizes are well in excess of the 20,000 square foot minimum area of the R1 zoning district. The net density for the 4.27 acre tract will be slightly over 1 unit per acre, and that again is substantially lower than the achievable density for the R1 district with the 20,000 square foot lots. Typically, that density would be in the neighborhood of a unit and a half per acre, or maybe larger, depending on the road configuration that the lots were utilizing. And the tract will be screened and buffered from the adjoining homes by the existing trees, which will further lessen any impact on the surrounding neighborhood. Again, you've already heard extensive testimony about the buffering along the perimeter of the tract. And what that buffering does basically is it lessens any potential impact on the adjoining residential areas. And those impacts are already mitigated by the fact that the development that's proposed here is compatible and similar and consistent with the development to the south of the property. So basically, the dwellings will be less impactful than the non-residential uses that are permitted by the plan office district, and it'll be fully compatible with the properties that surround this tract, and will have the potential to be impacted by any development on this tract. And for those reasons, I believe that the site is particularly suited for the single-family detached dwelling uses which are proposed. And it satisfies the positive criteria and advances the purposes of the Municipal Land Use Act I cited earlier, which included 2 purposes which deal with the appropriate use of land, and also the purpose that deals with good civic design and arrangement. Under the negative criteria, we have to show that the project will not result in substantial detriment to the public good, and that the use will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. I believe that, first of all, the first prong of the negative criteria, the general welfare prong, is usually addressed as a function of how the development would impact the surrounding neighborhood. And in this case, I think that there's no question that this development is not going to have any detrimental impact on the surrounding area, primarily because as a land use, it's identical to what's on its borders. The border areas are all surrounded, are all zoned R1. This property is being zoned, or designed to implement the controls within the R1 district, so it's completely consistent from the zoning perspective. And also, in addition to that, there's extensive buffering and screening around the perimeter of the property. So basically, the impact of this is significantly lower than it would be if it was developed just as a normal R1 subdivision, like the subdivisions that are on the area, within the area to the south of the project. And basically, as a result of that, there's no potential whatsoever here for any detriment to the surrounding land uses. The other thing we have to show is that the granting of the D1 variance can be reconciled with the failure to include the use within the district, within the PO district, and the relief will not impair the intent or purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinances. And we also have to show that we can reconcile the failure to otherwise include this use within the PO district under the Medici decision. And I've analyzed, first of all, I think the analysis that shows that the planned office district has limited potential to be developed for the uses it permits, contribute to reconciling this use with the failure to otherwise include it in the zone. I also think that the fact that the proposed residential use is fully appropriate for this specific location, and it has the ability to blend in seamlessly really with the surrounding residential development, is another factor that reconciles this use with the failure to otherwise include it. It will also not have an adverse impact on the balance of the PO zone. The residential uses will be screened and separated from the balance of the zone. They will be oriented away from the highway, so there's not going to be any interaction with any of those uses, although there really aren't any currently that are active in there aside from a chiropractor's office. The bank is vacant, and the other properties are primarily been vacant. In some of the cases, the buildings have been raised. So there's really no potential to adversely impact that zone. And it's less impactful than the uses which would otherwise be permitted in the planned office zone. And that, I think, supports the R1 district by being more compatible and consistent with the land use patterns that exist in that portion of the R1 district that abuts this specific property. It will also advance one of the goals of your 2022 reexamination report. There's basically 10 goals in that, and many of them aren't really applicable directly to this variance. But Purpose 1 reads, embrace community character and enhance the built environment with established residential neighborhoods while meeting the future housing needs of a wider range of households, incomes, and age cohorts with continued accommodation of the township's low and moderate income housing obligations. I think the key portion of that goal which applies here is the established neighborhood section. This is going to contribute in a positive way to that established neighborhood by being consistent and compatible with those established homes. So basically, I believe the proposed development will not impair the intent or purpose of the zone plan. The use can be reconciled with the failure to otherwise include the use within the zoning district, and as a consequence, it satisfies the negative criteria as well as the positive criteria, and that the application would deserve the board's approval.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, very comprehensive.
Thank you.
Mr. Singer, any other witnesses?
I do not. Any members have any questions of Mr. Miller?
All right, I'd like to proceed with professional questions, and then board member questions, and then we need an opportunity for public questions or comments for your people to answer. So, professionals?
They've addressed everything in our February 27 letter, and I don't have any further questions unless the board members have any.
Right, and from our engineer?
Yeah, no further questions for us.
Board members? Questions?
Okay. You mentioned I could just, about the detriment, there's no detriment to the public good, and all that, but by looking at everything, is it fair to say that the driveways on the new homes are the same width as these existing driveways on these homes over here and here? I guess what I'm asking is because you said there's no on-street parking on this strip, right? So all these houses here, these three homes here, are they able to accommodate two cars wide in those driveways, or?
The answer is the driveways could be designed to accommodate multiple cars, and probably will be. That's a concept plan, and it's not the scale, but I can guarantee you, from working with developments over the course of my career, that a project with that type of alignment and design has ample room to have the driveways sufficient to accommodate the RSIS standards and some additional parking. And there's even the possibility that there might be a bump out or two along the road of the cul-de-sac if the board determines that there might be need for some on-street parking as well.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? Hearing none, let's proceed to public questioning. So if members of the public have a comment or a question, we'll take them one by one, come up, be sworn in, and state your question or comment. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's James Tamboyle. I represent George Kaltner, who is here. If you want to swear him in, I just have a few questions for Mr. Kaltner and for Mr. Palante as well.
All right, is your client here sitting in the front row?
Actually, second row, yes.
Second row? Yeah, have him stand up and come forward and be sworn.
Come on up, George. Right to the microphone, thanks.
And state your,
Kingsbury.
You swear or affirm testimony you give tonight will be the truthful truth, nothing but truth, so help you God.
I will.
So thank you. I would like to start off by saying, Mr. Singer thanked you all, and we would also like to express the same, regardless of how this whole thing comes out. We recognize that many of you in this room are volunteers. This is a very important issue to us. Mr. Kaltner has lived adjacent to this property for about 40 years now, and we understand this is now the second hearing that you all have sat through. We understand that these are modified drawings. We understand Mr. Palante has had to go through numerous professional reviews. So we just wanted to say thank you because this is very important to us, and we understand that most of you are volunteering your time. But with that said, we don't see how anything has changed since the last time we were here. The last time we were here, you folks recognized that this whole thing is a use variance, and as we've just heard, the requirement for a D1 variance requires the applicant show that the property is particularly suited for the proposed use. And in reviewing the December resolution that you all passed, Section M, one of the overarching goals of the community is to encourage the development and improvement of existing commercial, office, and business uses along the Route 38 corridor and encourage uses which emphasize future growth. There will be no opportunity once these properties are built. And we do acknowledge this is much better than someone coming in to put a gas station in. This is also a much more toned-down application than was presented to you folks several months ago. But make no mistake, this is no residential use here. And we do acknowledge what we've just heard. Hainesport Township, like every other township, has a vested interest in bringing in residential property and bringing in enhancing communities, things like that. This is no place for children. This is no place to bring in and to invite more kids to come play and ride their bikes and go down the sidewalks. This is an area that's adjacent to Route 38. We don't need to belabor that point, but it's quite simply stated that nothing has changed in this application with regard to the proposed use than was presented to you all back in December. And that's quite simply something that we wanted to put a face on with Mr. Kaltner. I had a few questions for Mr. Palante. Fortunately, his attorney, Mr. Singer, did reach out to me. We were able to talk through some of our issues. And I had some questions for Frank, and he is still under oath. But I wanted to, just to emphasize the point that we raised, I wanted to take some testimony from George and to hear from him directly. George, where do you live right now?
I live, lot 6 of 106.02.
And that's
That is 407 Laurel Ridge Road.
And that's an area that's adjacent to the, what's been described as one of the retention basins on the, I believe that would be the south side of this proposed site, correct?
My property line, yes, joins this proposed development, yes.
And you lived there for about 40 years now, correct?
I believe 1981, yes.
Right. And have you seen, in those 40 years, have you seen children play in your neighborhood and in this area?
Yes, certainly. I see more in Craig Drive and Sand Lane, but I see children, yes, in front of me.
Okay, so the way this has been reconfigured, we'll acknowledge that there's a retention basin next to your property. Do you see any concerns with that retention basin?
Well, if this does go forward, I would only ask that that retention basin be moved to the east side if possible, and retain as much noise barrier for the entire Laurel Ridge community from the noise of Route 38.
And the standalone property we've talked about, the single home on the west side of the site, how close is that to Route 38?
Oh, well, you can see it's in contact with it. One of its borders is traffic on a major highway. Yes, it's close, and one of my biggest concerns is that any child living in that dwelling is at risk. But not only, I mean, any guest of that occupant may have children who are not aware of the danger. And I believe that's, my first concern was, Lot 7 of 106.03 was a residential home there. I think it's much more appropriate for a small architect or accountant or an attorney to take the benefit of exposure to the traffic of Route 38 and the location recognition and use it as an advantage, rather than a risk as a dwelling that would have a child in it that may be harmed.
You also had concerns about the area of the driveway. It's been proposed that that's going to be owned by the HOA. That driveway, as it's presently configured, empties out onto Laurel Ridge Road. I believe there's a Sandra Lane on the far east side of that development. Did you have some insight as to why that would be preferable to relocate that driveway?
If we are now to address the area that is 106.02, lots 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that group, I believe a much better solution would be to have access to those homes out to Sandra Lane, and that would reduce the exposure of those children to the high-traffic area. The opening proposed is only 175 feet from Route 38 traffic. If it were to open into Sandra Lane, that would be a much lower traffic situation, and I believe that would be the better solution.
And to talk a little bit about the buffer that exists now. Right now, that entire area is trees, correct?
Again, it's
What
all
what would be,
nature.
what would be the effect of putting those homes there and putting the retention basins into that buffer, in essence?
The homes, I would not oppose if the basins were moved further east, or one larger basin, and if the opening were out to Sandra Lane and provided some safety for the children, I would not oppose the situation, but that is not what is planned here. This is planning to bring that traffic right out to the Laurel Ridge Road and right near Route 38. I believe is dangerous.
So is there anything else you want to tell this board tonight regarding this application?
I only ask that, that the board be consistent. This was reviewed 3 months ago and found, if I read this right, a vote of 5-2 to be denied. And I just ask that the board be consistent, because I see essentially the same request for residential use in a professional zone.
Thank you. I had a few questions for Mr. Palante.
Sure, Mr. Palante, why don't you come on up? Mr. Coltner, thank you.
Mr.
Take a seat.
Palante, you're still under oath, I'll remind
Yes.
you, but you and I spoke out in the hallway, thank you for that. Sure. We talked about the fact that the only relief requested at this time is a use variance, and that this is not a formal application for site approval. So
Right.
we don't know the exact location of these homes, although, they've been delineated. Would you have objection to working with Mr. Coltner in relocating potentially that one retention basin that runs adjacent to his property?
I would be, and just to make it clear, like, my intention isn't to upset residents or to create a hardship for them, it's to work with them so that, I can get it done, but also hopefully make them happy in the process, so that, is there going to be an inconvenience to them? Of course it is, but to try to minimize that inconvenience.
Thank you. And how about, we talked about the possibility of relocating the ingress and egress. Is that possible to move that to Sandra Lane, or
So
if not, why?
obviously that would have to be something I'd have to sit down with Sam, the engineer, and kind of go over the layout for that and see, how it would make sense. But I do agree, yes, of course it would be better for the kids to go into Sandra Lane. We would just have to see, how that would work.
And the last thing we discussed was whether or not you'd be willing to agree to any sort of a deed restriction to limit this, so that you wouldn't come back in front of this board later on for approval to put, say, another home or two on this site, so maybe through a deed restriction or something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
as you see it now is the way that we are looking to proceed. So I'm not looking to change this at all, as far as the amount of houses that were going on this land.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Palante. So that's all the questions we had, folks. It was just simply our intention to come before this board and just reiterate that since the last resolution of December of 2024, nothing has changed. They have not met, the applicant has not met the D1 variance requirement to show that the property is particularly suited for the proposed variance. This property is particularly suited for a business use, as recognized by Hainesport Township about 2.5 years ago when they reviewed, when you folks all reviewed your master plan. So unless anyone has anything further for Mr. Coltner, I don't know if there's anyone else here on behalf of the general public, but I would thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Well, we'll find out if there's anybody else. The only comment I would make, counsel, is that, without getting into the details, the application that was reviewed by this board and rejected on a previous meeting was a significantly different application. I know you said it's essentially the same. I'm not sure, as one member of the board, that I agree with that. The applications will speak for themselves, but I think that should be at least noted with regard to your comments.
Yes, and we did acknowledge this is a much more toned-down version of what came in here back in December. The point that we were trying to make is that nothing has changed with regard to the use, the proposed use. And when they brought this before the board back in December, it was proposed as residential. And the, at that time, the resolution that was passed, states, to the contrary, it is specifically suited for professional office development, as it has been for decades. In the master plan reexamination just 2 years ago, the board planner did not recommend, and the board did not adopt any revision to the professional office zoning of the property. None of that has changed. That's our only point. Our only point is, and again, I'll recognize that sometimes the devil that we know is a lot better than the devil that we don't know. If this were to be shot down, what else would come before this board? But it's just quite simply not suited for residential purposes, for the reasons we've stated. So thank you very much.
Thank you, counsel. Appreciate
Anyone else
it.
have any questions of these specifically? No, thank you.
All right, are there any other members of the public that wish to have a question posed or provide a comment? Seeing no hands in the room,
There are 2 members online.
all right, if they unmute, we'll recognize them for comments or questions. If they don't unmute, we'll assume they're not interested in that. No one's unmuted. All right, so we'll assume they have no questions. All right, I'm going to close public comment.
Mr. McKay, may I ask a question? When you're ready?
Include you. Yeah, please.
So I guess one of that I've heard through both these applications is the impact on the neighborhood of this use. As I listen to the past and the present, is that the Sandra Lane issue I find rather interesting that you brought up, because at that point, the traffic would be impacting more residents coming up Laurel Ridge, going down Sandra Lane, which Sandra Lane has been a circle since its conception back in the 80s. So as much as we all talk about things, logically, you don't want this to impact the neighborhood, as from what I see from both applications. But changing the entrance from Laurel Ridge, which is right literally where they don't have to go past into any of the other parts of the neighborhood, doesn't make any sense to me as the zoning official when I look at that, because now we're impacting traffic with children that play on Craig Drive and Sandra Drive. So you have cars coming up Laurel Ridge, turning onto Craig, and then turning onto Sandra, where, as testimony from both times, is that that's where all the children play. So how is it any safer then if we're reverting the entrance from the very beginning of Laurel Ridge Road all the way through that entire neighborhood, then into a cul-de-sac that's been in place for 30-plus years? And who's to say that these new houses will have children? Yes, that absolutely could. Yet, when we take a look at the amount of houses that I just described on Laurel Ridge, Craig Drive, and Sandra Drive, you're impacting more houses than this development would ever have. So, again, that just is a little confusing to me, is that people don't want this, if it were approved, to impact their neighborhood. But changing the location of how they get in there, and then we talk about trash, we talk about mailboxes. So now we have more of an impact with trash, recycling, mailbox. So to me, that is not the most logical point that I've heard for both, again, no disrespect by any means, but as a zoning official, as I listen to hear all this, that does not make an ounce of sense to me personally and professionally. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kingsbury, we need to proceed. Can you frame out the motion that could be made to adopt the variances? And I think we're talking about 3 variances.
The main motion would be grant a use variance.
Should we break them? Should we break the motions up, or?
As shown on the concept plan, but not approval of the concept plan. It would be, the motion would be contingent upon the applicant coming back for subdivision approval and lot design approval. So I think that's the main variance that has to be voted on. It requires 5 yes votes. It would include a lot area variance for the standalone lot, because he would need to have that as part of his development approval.
All right.
So my recommendation is a use variance for a 4-lot subdivision, subject to site plan approval and design approval, with a lot area variance for the standalone lot included.
Are we including the street frontage variance in that?
I think you can deal with that when it comes back for site plan approval.
Okay.
You're just talking about the use of the property at this point.
All right, and 5 votes would be needed to pass that variance.
And that's what we-
All right. So members of the board, you've heard the solicitor scope out a motion to grant the requested D1 variance and the related variance. Can I have a motion to advance that?
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second. All 3 of us.
Pick one, I'm not quite sure who. Yeah, first. Steve, were you first?
No, that was pretty close.
Pretty close. Tie goes to the runner.
Let's go to the replay.
Yeah. All right, we get the second? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Navarita,
Yes.
Mrs. Levin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Husko,
Yes.
Mr. Holden,
Yes.
and Mr. McKay.
Yes. All right, passes. Mr. Palante, we'll see you sometime in the future for the site plan, I assume. Thank you, Mr. Singer. All right, moving right along. We have an administrative amendment as item D for case 23-01, Carvalho Carpentry. And-
With the mayor and,
Yep.
Jordan.
Good point. Driving.
Welcome back, ladies.
Thank you. Just for you. Did you miss me? No, the heat was on. The heat was on. It was.
All right, Ms. Newcomb, what's the issue?
Hi, good evening, folks. Mr. McKay and board members, Kathy Newcomb, Hainesport Township Zoning Officer. So back in March of '24, the board approved an addition for a property located at Block 64, Lot 15, which is 2611 Moran Highway. Everything came together, and at the very end, I asked for a final survey on the property, which I would normally do. In this case, again, I did a cover letter. I apologize for the first sentence. I repeated the word "the" a couple times. Yet, I spoke with Mr. Kingsbury on this, and this isn't a really de minimis issue, but we both felt that should be brought to the board, just to be put on record. I didn't feel that, obviously, it was my decision to to just ignore, and as well as Mr. Kingsbury agree with that. So the resolution stated that the front yard setback, because this is a corner property, has two front yards, was at 6'8" versus the 30 feet that was required for that zone. When they did the final as-built on the survey, it came back at 6.5 instead of 6.8. Again, as de minimis as it is, I still think that for any future sale of this house or anything that is questioned, that the board should recognize the difference, even though de minimis in nature. I think the board should be addressed on this so that they can see it.
That makes perfect sense, because it could cause a problem down the road with the new survey.
Correct.
Title. All right. So, Mr. Kingsbury, what is the motion that you would propose to be made by the board that would clean up this 2 or 3 inch issue?
We would need a motion to approve the as-built position and not requiring a reapplication for a variance because the deviation is so de minimis that it's not of concern.
Okay. Let me ask members of the board if you have any questions on this. Any comments from our professionals on this? Any comments from the public? Hearing no comments from the public present. Anyone online, any public members online have a comment? No one has unmuted?
No.
So we'll assume no. All right. Anything further, Ms. Newcomb, or anything further that you have?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory. I just thought, again, with the future of even a new resident possibly buying this house, if you were to sell it or something, anybody did an Oprah request and saw the difference, I think it's fair to the town as well as the applicant that we address this and just make it right and correct.
All right, members of the board, the motion has been framed by Mr. Kingsbury. Do I have anyone who will make a motion to accept the administrative change?
So moved.
All right. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mr. Navarita?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. Holden?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes.
All right,
you.
I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
All right, we have some minutes to deal with. First, we have the minutes of the January 8th reorganization meeting.
Mr. McKay? You can do both of those minutes in one vote because everybody's the same. They were all here.
Are they all right, we'll do that then. We have both sets of minutes, the regular meeting and the reorganization meeting. So can I have a motion to adopt and file the motions as drafted, the minutes, excuse me, as drafted?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All right, and roll call, please.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
Mr. Navarita?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. All right, we have two resolutions to look at, which is item 9 on the agenda. Resolution 2025-10, that's the Lorenco property. You'll recall that long, narrow road, or long, narrow lot over on Arc Road. Can I have a motion to adopt the resolution as drafted?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Navarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. Next, we have Resolution 2025-11, Hainesport Enterprises, You recall this involved the site on Route 38, and I'll call it the, sort of the cleanup of various issues with regard to that lot. Can I have a motion to accept the resolution as drafted?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mr. Margarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosko?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. All right, next we have correspondence. We have a schedule of correspondence from A to F. Does anyone have any desire to address any of those particular items of correspondence in particular? And if not, can I have a motion to receive and file that correspondence as listed on the agenda?
So moved.
Motion to receive and file. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Mr. Margarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosko?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. All right, item 11, professional comments. Are there any from either our planner or engineer or council?
Sir, all they have to is no retirement and postpone for 1 month.
Oh, well, I guess that's good for us and bad for Marty. But that's good news. Any board comments?
Yes, if I may.
Yes.
I just wanted to echo, I fully agree with you, Mr. McKay, in terms of Mr. Palante's application is in fact a very much different application, and that's evident by the absence of all of the residents in that community and the overwhelming support of our land use board tonight. It's clearly a less intense application, and 90% of the comments that were made from the community that night were with regards to the veterans home and the supportive needs housing. So that alone makes this an overwhelmingly much different application. So obviously, Mr. Palante is, it's going to be a nice project, but it's significantly scaled down to meet the mandate which the board adopted as part of the land use process, that any developments 5 or more requires a 20% set aside for affordable housing. So obviously, this mitigates that need. But I agree with you, Mr. McKay, it's a substantially different application.
Yeah, I think your comments are well taken, and thank you. Any other board comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for public comments, but there's no one in the room here, but online there might be some comments. If anyone unmutes to make a comment, otherwise we'll assume no comment.
Just one individual, they're not unmuting.
No one's unmuting, so we'll close the public comments. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that a murmur or something?